This is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. We're doing a Sunday quick hit, and we are here in honor of tonight's RHONJ episode with the one and only Melissa's old nose.
Hi, David.
I should say Gabriella. Thank you for
Yeah,
jumping on here with me.
yes. It's going to be a good time. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I love your pod.
Thank you. I mean, listen, you and I are going to sit down and just so for in a long format, but I wanted to do a quick hit today. For everyone who doesn't know, I usually stick to what's on the TV, but you used to run the Twitter account, Melissa's Old Nose, and this really has come into Melissa Gorga is talking about this during her Entertainment Tonight interview. Margaret's being asked about the drama between the RHO and J bloggers. Teresa's bringing it up or being asked about it. So it's kind of really come to the main forefront of the show this season. Everyone's kind of talking about this, talking about you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really crazy because even though we're talking about what's going on social media, we're kind of seeing what we're talking about social media play out on the show, especially in regards to the Fuda. Everything that was planted against them on my page, on Instagram, on Twitter. We're now seeing it play out on TV. It's so ironic. It's so crazy. It's disturbing. It's not entertaining, and I will never see the show again the same.
I haven't seen the show in the same for a long time. I think,
Yeah.
and I have nothing. I'm not team Teresa. I'm not team Melissa. Like, I guess just, well, tonight's episode and the season, like it sounds like you really know everything because you've already spilled spoilers that have come true. You really know what's going to happen this season because what you were in Teresa's camp working like with her and her lawyer, Jim Leonard, and they were having you put out things against their enemies, so to speak, like Fuda and Margaret and everyone above.
Yes. We were conjuring up, digging, um, investigating. Like we were doing a lot of things behind the scenes so we can get whatever so-called evidence we can put our hands on onto social media so they could stick it onto the show because we wanted to make sure we were driving that narrative. That team was so fixated on the show revolving around their queen that they were working overtime behind the scenes during the off season to get next season storyline in motion on social media so we can see it play out on the show. That's why, like I've said in other interviews, when I watched it, when I watched season 14, the first episode, I felt like I helped produce that. It was so weird. I saw it through like a different set of eyes. I see now like what that camp does and how they're able to get what we put together behind the scenes onto the social media platforms, then onto bigger reality websites, and then onto a TV show. And then from there, like the storyline that we put out there keeps Teresa and Jennifer at the center of the shitstorm, and everyone's talking to them. Everyone's talking about them. Everyone's questioning them. So they'll forever be relevant because we're driving the narrative around them. It's so crazy. And
It's
these are not good narratives either. These are narratives and storylines that are really they could really damage a person, a family, a business. It's pretty gross.
And again, you and I are going to do a two-part, at least maybe three-part episode and go through this all slowly. Like why, it is actually a thing. It's called imposter syndrome. It's actually a term where like you are so successful at something, anything, and yet you look around and like all these people, I don't even know if look up to you is the right word, but you've made it. Like you are the gold standard in the job that you're doing, and yet you don't feel like you should be there. Like you see what I'm saying? Like if like Danielle Cabral were doing this, or even Fuda, I would understand it because they got a long way to go before we have like a 14-year career. Like Teresa, it is basically her show. The last person who should be doing this behind the scenes is Teresa. Like, you don't need to do
Well,
it, girl. You don't need to do it. Like,
but
that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, but I also do believe, like, I'm not going to take anything away from her. She is good TV. And I actually think her lawyer does her a disservice by helping conjure up these narratives and storylines behind the scenes, because she could naturally be entertaining just showing us her family, her dynamic with her children. But at the same time, it's like, no wonder the show does revolve around her, because they've manipulated it that way. You know, a lot of people right now are hating on Rachel Fuda that she's keeping Teresa's name in her mouth. Well, I would keep someone's name in my mouth too if they were working and digging behind the scenes into my husband's past so that she could fight with him on national television so she could be the talk of the town. Like, why wouldn't Rachel talk about her? But again, it's almost like working into Teresa's favor, because guess what? Everyone's talking about Teresa fighting with John. So it's crazy. Like, yes, I'm not going to take away from her, you know, what she's contributed to the show, but I also think that a lot of what she has contributed was manufactured behind the scenes to keep
And
her relevant.
and is this mostly her lawyer that's doing this, Jim? That like is we got to do this, we got to keep you going, or is it now Louis taking over the reins, or is it really Teresa?
Everybody has a little piece of the pie, but I would say her lawyer is like the head of the operation. He's very much involved. I mean, we can go into this deeper on the Patreon, but he's the brains behind the operation. He's the one who calls shots. I mean, Louis has his part in it as well. So does Jennifer Aydin, and then the bloggers, it trickles down to them. However, he is the mastermind behind all of it. I mean, take a look at how he himself has confessionals. If you know, don't be surprised, guys, in season 14, if Jim Leonard has a confessional. This man has really, really helped produce a lot of shit that we see on the show.
That's crazy if he has confessionals this season.
Well, he's definitely in a scene. He's definitely going to be in a scene. So, where he's telling the cast about Louis' court case and how Margaret and Joe were involved with speaking with the ex, he's going to have a scene for sure.
Because, right, like Teresa's doing all these interviews and she keeps saying to everyone, just watch. I'm going to be vindicated. And she also keeps saying, I can't talk about Margaret because of legal stuff. Like, what is that?
Yeah, so in regards to like when we saw the scene of Louis wearing the gimme pizza, you old troll shirt, cringe. Um,
Yes.
when we saw that scene and she's like, honey, you know, there's stuff going on with Margaret, but we can't talk about it. It's like in my mind, I was like, girl, you're so obvious. That's another thing. I see it so clear now how fake and like it's like she's acting. It's so crazy. She knows she's going to talk about it because they didn't give a damn that the trial was still going, even though the judge made it clear to all parties you can't talk about this outside of the courtroom. She knows while she sits there and tells Louis can't talk about it because of an ongoing court whatever. She knows that her lawyer, her own lawyer who holds a law degree, is going to talk about a case that's ongoing on national television while the cameras are rolling, and it's going to be he himself who tells the cast that it was admitted on the stand during the trial that